I am James Mould, VP for Client Management and Sales at DevTech Group, and I'm delighted to be joined today by a fantastic panel of guests, all leading figures in our industry. And so without further ado, I'd like to do a round of introductions and then we can get started on the panel discussion. So maybe Renee, you can introduce yourself first and then we'll go around the table.
Thank you, James. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Renee Bergeron. I am the Chief Operating Officer for AppDirect. We are an e-commerce platform company to help businesses build their ecosystem and offer an array of solutions. And I've been in the channel ecosystem for the past 15 years, the last 5 with AppDirect, and prior to that with a large distributor where I led the global cloud business.
Fantastic. Brandon, should we go you next?
Brandon Knight. I'm responsible for the customer experience channel and ecosystem here at Zoom. And thankfully, because of all you wonderful people in the world, I don't have to explain who Zoom is. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Maarten?
Hi, my name is Maarten Broeke. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called PAL15. And PAL15 helps primarily service providers and software businesses with their value proposition creation and the way they bring that and launch that to market. Operating fairly globally, so I'm now based out of Amsterdam. So hi all. We also have an office in London and one in Seattle. Just opened one we have one in Sydney, and we just opened one in Seattle. So a fairly global operation.
Fabulous, fabulous. So thank you for joining us today, guys, and for those of you on the call. So maybe Renee, first I come to you with your extensive experience at AppDirect and previously at your distributors. What do you think some of the common mistakes are that companies make in this channel go-to-market environment that we're in? What should they be thinking about doing differently? Have you seen some mistakes, common mistakes being made? What's your experience of that?
Yeah, I'll touch on a couple of points. So I think the first one is that often vendors don't design their distribution strategy from the onset. They'll basically establish their digital sales motion, they'll establish their direct sales motion without thinking of all of the different channels that they can leverage to go to market, including ecosystem. You know, typically after they design the digital and the direct, they'll design indirect, and it's only then that they think about ecosystem. And I think that designing for ecosystem and broad distribution strategies from day one is critical, because you need to think about those in the way you design your products. You know, there are key features of the products that are required for you to execute a multi-channel distribution strategy. And so that's a difficulty I see, or a challenge that I see vendors experiencing. Maybe to talk about a second one, I also see that when they start looking at indirect sales motion or ecosystem, they design very much for a VAR or an MSP experience. And while these are an important part of the partners that sell technology to end customer, they represent about 30% of worldwide partners, according to a number of studies I've seen recently. So designing for a broader set of partners is also super important. If you think of all the different individuals that sell technology today, you know, you have the professional services organization, whether they're accountants or legal firms or others. And you also have more and more the influencers and affiliates, those that have read the 4-Hour Workweek and decided to start a business based on this. So designing for a broad set of partners is also critical, I think, in order to have the widest reach possible in the industry.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I mean, yeah, so product design super important from the outset, from what you're saying, and also considering that breadth of different channels that are now available. So that's really interesting. I mean, maybe Maarten next. Obviously, PAL 15, your company, you've been kind of advising in this area. We see some people that are really doing well and some people that are really not doing so well. Have you seen some common mistakes being made, and there's some things that people shouldn't do that you've kind of picked up on?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. And I think part of this sits with the experiences Renee just shared. I think a lot of companies going for channel, or ICs going for channel, they haven't really thought through their partner strategy. And one of the reasons why they go partner is direct customer acquisition gets expensive. And it's like, oh, I will go partner, and then they always think, oh, partner, that they will sell my product or my service. And then there's so many different reasons to partner, right? That is it, you want to partner because you provide this amazing opportunity, and then do you want to partner because it helps you solve a distribution problem or an implementation problem, or is it providing some credibility for? So there's so many reasons to partner. Many don't know, and then if you don't know, you can never focus. So that is one. Another mistake we see a lot is, and this sounds very trivial, but then having a strategy of signing up as many partners as you can get. Oh, we have a partner strategy. Let's sign up a lot of partners. And then think, how is your partner strategy go? No, it's amazing. We signed up 40 partners. Okay, how many are transacting? So yeah, the approach we would typically advise is like, look, if you go for partner, really focus on the ideal partner profile, have very clear why you want to partner. And then also make sure that you have a couple of success stories rather than a large number of partners signed up. So I think that's one. And the last one, and just quickly, the last one I think is the idea that and this sits with my previous learning, but then the idea that the partner does all the work for you is also absolutely not true, right? You can partner, but then helping them really become successful is a two-way street. It's not just the one dimension, oh, here's my product, go sell. It doesn't work like that. But many people seem to think. So I think that is, that would be my don't. So don't go in without a strategy. Don't go opportunistic, and then make sure you team up. I think super important.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. I think there's still obviously a lot of companies out there that aren't quite following your good advice. So Brandon, I guess, Zoom obviously is super successful as a company, but have you come across things within Zoom that maybe you've learned from that haven't worked so well? So some successes and some issues and some learning as well. Have you been through that cycle? What's your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. And ironically, the first one I'm going to mention was and is both a success and a challenge, right? And something that we didn't do so well that ended up being a success. And that is, when we went into the ecosystem and we went into the channel in general, being primarily a direct company, we tried some things. Very much to like what Renee was saying, we tried what we thought was the right thing to do, what we thought was the right positioning for our organization. But very much like these guys talked about, we were the typical company at first that we were direct, and then we thought about indirect, and then we thought about the ecosystem. And you're learning all along the way if you don't take a holistic approach from the beginning. So we had some bumps in the road with partner relationships, kind of like with the comp plans and different things that we rolled out. But why I say that is both a challenge and a success is because it did afford us an opportunity to hone in on what is the right program for us and what is the right program for the types of partners that we want to do business with. So while early on it was kind of bumpy figuring it out because we went the route of that everyone else goes. But the end product, where we are now, is a version of our channel program that fits the type of partner we want and that fits our ability and our relationship. I do want to mention one more thing, not specific to Zoom, but it's something that I have seen in the channel. When you talk about, like Maarten was saying, adding partners into your ecosystem, oftentimes suppliers have an inside-out approach. Like they can always think of why they want that third party to be in their ecosystem. they very rarely think about why that third party would want to be in their ecosystem. And I think that's a mistake that several companies are making. And I think when you do that, you take the approach like Maarten said, you do a shotgun approach, and you just have a bunch of all these different types of partners that don't really bring any type of distinguishable value.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So kind of focusing too much on the inside view and not on the outside view and the market perspective. And clearly at Zoom, you've kind of gone through a learning process, but to get to where you are now, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot of kind of lessons there. Last ecosystem talk, Rob Ray from Pax8 shared some kind of useful insight. He was saying that, the average sort of SaaS subscription length, if you sell direct, is the 3 years. But if you sell via MSPs, they're seeing like a really powerful uplift in the subscription length, 5x multiplier. So, that was really interesting for us to hear. And I think, Renee, we're still seeing a lot of companies going after MSPs and VARs one by one, still kind of trying to create relationships by knocking on doors, basically. Given all the kind of rapid evolution of B2B marketplaces and the technology, what should vendors really be focused on today to tailor and execute their channel go-to-market strategies? What should they be doing kind of differently, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, it starts with a really good incentive program, right? So partners are motivated by incentives, pretty obvious, right? So, but it's complex in an ecosystem world where there are direct partners, indirect partners, and you also have a direct sales motion and digital sales motion. So designing your incentives correctly is key. And I think it's got to be, it's a little bit like when an organization designs its sales incentive for its direct sales force, right? You got to mull it over. You got to do a lot of analysis, and you got to play out different scenarios and model to get it right. And, to what Brendan was saying earlier, you've got to experiment it and be willing to change it as you go. But the incentive program is absolutely key. And you've got to consider in your incentive programs offering free trials and also discounts for partners using the solutions for their own business. Because if they're using and adopting, then there are definitely going to be great advocate for the solution. So incentive is the first one I'd point to. The next one is training and certification, right? Creating that sales enablement program and helping the partners really understand the solution and being able to add their own competencies and drive value through the solution is absolutely key. So you need to invest in sales enablement, channel enablement. And the certifications are important because they're a recognition where the partner is going to start, putting up badges that promote your solution. So ultimately, I think that's just a very impactful element. And then the third one and last one I'll mention is just industry solutions, right? Partner sells to businesses, and they from time to time need help and guidance in terms of what solutions are best positioned. So having industry stories, for your solutions gives partner a recipe for sales and success that is quite important in my opinion.
Yeah, brilliant. So some really useful points there, covering incentives, training, and industry-based solutions. That's really helpful. I think, Brandon, your Zoom, you've done some recent enhancements to your partner ecosystem and the benefits and the programs that you're running. How do you see some of those changes kind of empowering your channel partners to drive growth and to be more effective in what they're trying to do? And then secondly to that, maybe how can other businesses kind of implement some of those insights for themselves? So maybe you can give us a perspective on what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the first thing to point out is an effective ecosystem makes the indirect sales and the direct sales teams, it makes their job easier. because a true consultant, when we're talking the trusted advisors, the ones that are doing consultative sales, they're not going in saying, I'm going to sell this one thing or sell this one thing, right? They're going in and evaluating what the business needs and then putting together a plan. And when you have an established ecosystem, because invariably it comes back, let's say in our case, a customer says, well, hey, okay, I do want Zoom. So they tell the partner, I want Zoom, but I want Zoom Contact Center. Well, the next logical question is, well, which CRMs does it work with? Which ERPs does it work with financial? So you can make it easier when you have an ecosystem, when you've built out those relationships. You're not, asking a partner to go figure it out on their own, because an effective ecosystem can present the best case relationships for them, and of course help them understand which applications on the platform foundation work together well, which ones have already been integrated, which all these things I think help. And so as far as other businesses going down this, I'm gonna steal something from Renee, because I think it's a huge miss. Think about it in the beginning. Don't just think, well, I'm going to be a direct salesperson. Then after we master that, then I'm going to go do, if you have an opportunity, think about how all of it's going to go together. Think about how your partners are going to interact on that ecosystem, which ones you need on the ecosystem. And I'll tell you something that I think some suppliers aren't really honest with themselves about, which they should be, is your ecosystem is also an opportunity for you to look out for your shortcomings, kind of where you miss, right? So it's not just, well, I have this product and this product goes well with it, but maybe there's something that you don't do as well, or you're not on your roadmap where you want to be. I think an ecosystem is an opportunity for you to get some masterful relationships to deliver, a best in breed product. The other thing I will offer businesses who are thinking of doing this to improve their partner networks is, too often the marketing is targeted towards your end user, it's targeted towards your customer, and I get it, right? That's your end goal, but you need to think about marketing to that partner as well. Whether it's the referral channel, the MSP channel, the VAR channel, you should have marketing that tells that partner why they want to be a partner of yours, just like you want to tell a customer why they should be using your product.
No, that's really important. So, well, you've given us a lot to think about there. So, marketing in terms of looking after your partners, thinking about partners, just not about revenue growth, but also about, what knowledge your business requires and can learn from other players as well. Right. So that's really interesting. I think let's maybe talk about telcos and maybe come to Maarten for some of the big telcos and larger distributors that still launching kind of digital marketplaces for their own ecosystem plays now. What have you kind of seen as being successful there in the execution of those initiatives?
Yeah. I think before we go into what makes you successful, I think there's one observation I really liked about an ecosystem for within telco landscape, and it's a very basic one. But then, if you put on a marketplace, you assume already that your customers know what they need, right? And then this is, I think, always the struggle within the ecosystem and a marketplace towards end customers. I don't think per se they work unless you educate your end customers really well. So I think traditionally why telcos have been struggling with the marketplace is this. It's like, hey, we have this 900 solutions in this marketplace. Ta-da, buy it. And the customer doesn't know. They don't know what they need. They don't know the problems they have. And then this is also exactly the whole partner opportunity we're discussing. Educating those customers what is possible, what they need. I think that's the missing key for many telcos also to be successful. So I haven't really seen that many being successful other than, we attach a certain service to a mobile subscription, and there it is. And after a year, there's a lot of churn. And I know that a lot of telcos are working on this at the moment, right? They're changing that model. They are attaching partners to it, because I think that what you said, James, was extremely interesting. That the customer lifetime value is a lot higher when you attach a partner. Makes total sense. Yeah. So if you ask me what does it make successful? It's it's partners who can educate and really help customers move on. And it sounds so simple, but it is not. I mean, I love that you said, Brandon, we moved into partner fairly early on. Zoom is the same for everyone, right? If I buy Zoom directly, or if I buy it via KPN, or I buy it via Vodafone, it's the same application. So what does a partner add to that experience to make it better? It's how does it work? What other solutions are there? Oh, Zoom sits in our workplace propositions, but perhaps there's also a security portfolio we can help you with, because with all the scamming and AI coming up with personifications, we can help you with that. It's literally bundling it in a logical way and telling that narrative in a proper way. I think is super key. But then, funny enough, they really struggle with this part. Whereas, from our perspective, it's so simple. Structure your services, really help your customers, educate them, take them by the hand. That's what they're willing to pay for. And then Brandon, you mentioned, hey, as an ISV also, hey, although you go to the end customer, help your partners on that story. I fully agree. So market towards those partners, help them, educate them, show them how else you can apply it, and then they will tell it to their end customers. That's the part which makes it successful. Pretty sure.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I think I think all three of you mentioned it. You know, there's the digital platform challenge, but then there's also so many other things that go around a good partner program: sales training, accreditation, training partners. All these things have to come together. And I think, yeah, definitely, I've worked with telcos and seen some of those challenges playing out. I guess one of the other things that kind of perennially comes up with some of the customers that we talk to is this discussion on return of investment, you know, ROI. How do I justify my spend, and how do I make decisions around that? What metrics should I be choosing to focus on? So maybe Renee and Brandon, maybe you can give us a bit of kind of a view of what kinds of metrics you value in that situation, and how you track them. Maybe give us a bit of insight around that.
Yeah, I mean, there's an investment to join an ecosystem, right? You've got to develop the APIs, and you've got to develop the programs and the training to make sure that you get value out of these. And so, you know, the typical KPIs that I suggest to track are some of the basics, right? So it's about, you know, your entire flow of taking partners through the funnel. So yes, signing them up, but getting, you know, through every step. So getting them engaged with your material, getting them certified, and getting them to the first win, and getting them to a win a month, et cetera, right? So I think those are some of the key metric. And what's interesting also is, I think, tracking them not only at the partner level, but at the end customer level, right? Tracking the ARPU at the end customer level, number of customers per partner, et cetera. It is a leverage business, right? And so it's about, you know, tracking each of the lever every step of the way.
And Brendan, does that resonate with the way that you work at Zoom, or?
Absolutely, it does. And I want to add one more thing in there, because I want to state the obvious, right? We're in business to sell product, right? We're in business to sell service. And I'll tell you, one of the things I think we did exceptionally well with adding partners to our marketplace, or to our ecosystem, was combining, kind of working collaboratively with them as the technology was being integrated and built out. We work with their marketing department, we work with their leadership department, we work with their operations department, and that allowed us to hit the ground running once the technology was tied in and ready to go. Because let's face it, when you're talking ROI, the quicker you can create a customer, the quicker you can return revenue to that partner that you're inviting to your ecosystem, the more likely they are to reward you in that relationship. And to continue going, and to continue to have it grow, because, you know, we have these marketing teams that make everything we do sound great, but we all want to, you know, help customers by providing them with our products and services.
Yeah. And James, just to add, Maarten was talking earlier about, you know, the fact that businesses start looking at indirect or ecosystem once their direct sales costs become, you know, high. And I think that the cost of acquisition is a really important metric as well for businesses that go through ecosystem or indirect channel. So measuring your customer acquisition costs in the various channels, whether it's digital, direct, indirect ecosystem, is super important.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Maarten, that resonates with you, I guess, because you made some of those points earlier. But anything else you think we need to add to our ROI measurement piece?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have if I've got tips and tricks, but just I'm thinking about there's many ways of looking at the business case, I guess, right? Like and an investment on return on investment typically says like, oh, probably is revenue based. So how much revenue are we going to sell and what services? But then I think especially for a large part of traditional distributors and telcos, it's also a churn thing. It's like, hey, if you don't add these type of services and you miss out on this whole game, what happens then? So I always wonder, is the business case only based on, oh, I need to have X amount of new revenue coming in, or do you also want to keep your customers, and then how does this fit in the strategy? And I think that's many times overlooked.
Yeah.
So it's more something I wanted to chip in. I think the business case is wider than just, oh, we need to have some more revenue.
Yeah. Sometimes, and I think Brendan, you alluded to this actually, time to market is important in this ROI discussion, right? And sometimes I think we've heard, people's perception, companies' perception is that the time to market for this ecosystem play is going to take too long, right? So is that a valid worry? So it's like, we'll start direct selling in the short term, and then we'll kind of bring our ecosystem and our partner sales plan online later. Would you agree with that, Brandon, or do you think actually you can change that?
Honestly, I think you can. I think there's some things that you can do in an agile approach, versus the normal, waterfall approach that that companies take to doing that. Because I think when you're designing your original go-to-market strategy, which everyone invariably designs for their direct team, it's at that point though that you do know what your product is capable of. You know what your roadmap is. You know when your timetable for when your product's going to change. You know the types of integrations that would be good in a best case environment with your product or service. You know the number of salespeople that you have. You know the geographies that you cover. And to me, those are some of the things you look at when you think of an ecosystem, right? Can I partner with someone that gives me a geographical footprint that I don't have already? Can I partner with someone that gives me a technological differentiator that I don't have? Can I, so I think those things early on. And I think to some degree it's a mistake not to consider the ecosystem at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maarten, anything from you on the kind of time to market side of things? How do we accelerate that?
Yeah, I think time to market is key in everything we do, especially now. I mean, a year and a half ago, nobody was talking about Gen AI or AI, and then now everything is dominated by that. So time to market, how can you move as quick as you can? I think that's exactly where parties like AppDirect come in, and then be a huge differentiator when it comes to speed to market. Onboarding once a system, that's one part. Once you're on, there's so many sort of things you can easily tap into. I think that's the great part. I think also, and then primarily for the bigger organizations, that they're slow because of their internal processes. I mean, looking at things from a market perspective and speed to market perspective is also a mindset. And if I see sometimes how many hoops there are before launching something to market, because everything needs to be thought through in the detail and at scale, sometimes running pilots quickly to get up learnings and then apply those learnings and then scale out along the way is a much better strategy. And then I guess that it's in larger organizations might be difficult, but I think speed to market is a mindset, and then having running a lot of small pilots, or I think would be hugely beneficial. And and you see it a lot more, right? So more mindset thing, I would say.
That's brilliant. Well, look, I think it's been really useful so far. I think let's also open up for questions on the call. So if people on the call want to ask questions, that'd be fantastic, and we'll see how many we can deal with. In the meantime, I would also, I'm interested in, we've read this report, State of Platforms 2024. and I was kind of interested in your view of, what you see as the big trends coming forwards over the next kind of 12 months. So maybe, Renee, how do you think things are going to develop in this year and next year? What are the things that we should be watching for in terms of change in the industry?
So, I mean, ecosystems are here to stay, in my opinion. We've been talking about them for probably, 7, 8 years. And I think we are now seeing like the volume that's going through it. So I think as a vendor, you really got to think of the ecosystem in two ways, right? One is, which ecosystem do you want to join, right? Meaning integrating your solution to their solution, taking advantage of co-marketing, co-selling opportunity to reduce your customer acquisition costs, increase your reach, conversion rate, et cetera. Just all of that will give you pull through sales. And you got to be picky because, as we said before, this requires engineering time. And you've probably got, as a vendor, a long roadmap of features you want to develop for your solution. So you're making a choice when you're taking some of your engineering time and investing it in joining an ecosystem. And so you really got to pick your ecosystem correctly and make sure that it's an ecosystem that opens omni channels for you. That's something we're very big on at AppDirect, right? Having a vendor joining our ecosystem gives access to the hundreds of large organization that run on our e-commerce engine, joining the AppDirect marketplace, as well as joining the large enterprise that have picked AppDirect as their procurement engine, right? So you want to pick ecosystem that offer you omni routes of channel. And then the second part of it is you want to build your own ecosystem. You want to start to create incentive for ISVs to develop complementary solutions to your own. You want to build your own marketplace where you can sell these solutions. You got to think about both sides of the coin when it comes to ecosystem.
Yeah, that makes sense. So still bullish for the future and lots of work to do. Brandon, how about your view for the going forwards?
Well, I think the sky's the limit. I think it's crazy to say that, but you think about we're talking technology. Technology by its very nature is an evolving, growing, thing, and largely driven by customer demand. I mean, we like to think that we came up with all these cool things that our product should do, but in reality, we responded to what the customer wanted, right? And what the multiple generations that enter the workforce and stuff like that, what they wanted. And I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to see more data being available. I think a push to put it in a more succinct manner. I think we're going to see more speed, as an actual demand. Be more efficient, be more concise with stuff. So I'm excited about that. I will tell you, it's one thing, because I've learned if someone says it well, like there's no need in rephrasing it. In this report, I think something jumped out at me, and I want to share it really quickly because I think it's worth talking about. And kudos to Michelle over at HubSpot, because the focus that she put, that there's a 5-step thing on how to embed a partner ecosystem into your culture. And she talks about prioritizing the partner success, collaborative mindset, build trust, incentivize partnership, and continuous communication. There's no better way to say that. Those things need to happen if you want to do this successfully, even in that order to some degree. So that's one of the things that stood out to me about this report. I think there's a blueprint in there for how to do this the right way.
Fantastic. Maybe Maarten, come to you. So what does the future hold? And
yeah, I think it's funny because I hear two people explain it a little bit from a more ISV perspective, I guess, building ecosystems, and I fully agree that this is the sky's limit, and then there's the future. So let me then take the other side of the ecosystem of the partners a little bit. I think it will get more and more easy for the world to acquire software and solutions direct, right? That's going direct gets easier and easier. especially inbound. So what does it mean? That means a partner should focus a lot more on the added value and modernize quickly. And what you see, there's such a large partner base which has been always very comfortable, and then they're not really taking their customers on a journey. And at one point, those customers are going to flip, and then somebody else is going to help them and take them on that journey. So for me, focusing on added value is for sure something which is going to be more important. Followed by that, and I think Renee, you said it really, really nicely. That means you're talking to businesses. Then make sure you're gonna focus on industries and verticals you can actually solve. And that's something which has been going on already for a while and is now accelerating, right? Like industry-specific solutions and the way you bundle that and help customers on that journey. And that's, for me, is really strong future. Even with Gen AI coming in and being sort of on top of all of these things, I think that's, for me, for sure, for the upcoming years, the key priority. Differentiate and verticalize.
I agree.
Fantastic. So, okay, we have some questions coming in. It's a question for Renee and Maarten. From the vendors you've been working with, how many of them don't have technical readiness to integrate into marketplaces, e.g. they lack multi-tenant support or lack APIs for provisioning? So I guess that's a question that's come in. So maybe Renee first, and then Maarten.
From my experience, fewer and fewer these days. You know, we started back in, I think it was 2013, we launched the first marketplace. And back then, it was painful. It's no other way to put it. But you know, it was an opportunity for a number of businesses like DevTech to actually establish themselves as a leader in developing integrations for vendors. But today, we most vendors we encounter have APIs. They probably don't have full features and functionality through their APIs, but I think some of the basics are in place to start. I don't know, how does that compare to your experience, Maarten?
Yeah, I think pretty similar. I mean, by no means I'm a technical person by heart, so I'm a very much opportunity thinker, not so much, is this opportunity blocked by technicalities? But I think you're right. Like all the way in the beginning, like 10 years ago, it was really a blocker. I think now there's a lot more flexibility also in the platforms which provide for that. I think the one thing which doesn't say here, this goes about technical readiness and integrated to marketplace. I think business model sits on top of that, right? Having a clear business model, which is also easy to deploy in partner, I think is a bigger bottleneck than per se the technology around it. So I would definitely also think that true.
So there's general technology is less of a barrier now. It's kind of more about, we've talked a lot about on the call today, obviously the things around the partner strategy, what makes it a successful strategy, and maybe technology is less of a barrier than it was a few years ago.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's really helpful. We've got one other question for Maarten. Have you seen bundles with Microsoft services help the adoption? So are we seeing this kind of bundling pull through in marketplace where you're seeing the stickiness and the pull through of other services through bundling with Microsoft? So is that a key factor? I guess whoever wants to answer that, maybe Maarten first.
Yeah, so most people who know probably PAL15 know that we do quite a lot of work also together with Microsoft. And I think Microsoft has made a whole key strategy around it, right? Like, hey, how can we sort of have Microsoft as the big entry service and then have an ecosystem around that all to just make sure that customers get stickier and use the services more often. So I think that strategy is for sure in place. And are there bundles? Yeah, there are many bundles, different type of bundles too. So they have the enablement services, and they have sort of security, all the services you would expect them to have. I think one interesting move is that they're also doubling down on their own app store, and which then for me also means that it gets more mainstream. Then even for the Microsofts of this world, it's the same challenge I mentioned earlier. So having an amazing app store where you can click and buy and integrate still requires customers like PAL15 itself to then really understand what they need. And I think that's still the big challenge. Like what is it that you need in a continuously changing world, which is fast-paced changing? how can you stay up to date? And then that's also for the Microsoft as well, the challenge.
Yeah. And Renee, is that something at AppDirect, you look at bundling and pull through products against different sales? Maybe, how does that work for AppDirect?
Yeah, we do. When I think of bundling, our platform obviously supports that because many of the technology solution providers have bundling strategies. I'm a big believer in soft bundle rather than hard bundles. I've had lots of experience in hard bundles and have seen not the pull through that you would expect, because the reality is most businesses don't start with a blank canvas when it comes to technology. They already have some solutions, but they're looking to add some more and integrate them. And so if you're only building hard bundles, meaning, Microsoft plus solution 1 and solution 2, or, whatever combination, then, very often you'll have a customer that needs 2 of the 3 and so on. So designing an experience on the marketplace where you have soft bundles, where you can kind of pull in the next solution, which is suggested to the user in a logical way. If you start with solution 1, then you're likely to go to one of these 3 solutions next, for example, right? I think that for me, that's where I've seen the most success. And, to the point Maarten was making, I totally agree with what you were saying, Maarten. I think that, the Microsoft ecosystem is super powerful, and it's definitely something to attach to, if that makes sense, as a vendor for your solution. You also want to consider the Google workspace, right? Everybody's got email, and the entire world is either on Microsoft or Google, and therefore, it should be an initial question for every single vendor. Does my solution make sense to integrate with, one of the leading email providers?
No, fantastic. So some good advice and some good insight on bundling and the use of Microsoft and not forgetting other vendors as well. So I guess we're nearly at the end. Maybe Brandon, for a last point, thinking about kind of what do we leave for people in similar jobs to yourself, Brandon? What would be our parting message today in terms of improving their channel ecosystem play? What advice would you give to close?
The advice I would give to close on improving your channel ecosystem, ironically, would be think about your direct side. And the reason I say that is because the direct side is where you start first thinking about, what the end user customer experience is like, right, and what the customer wants, and then you pull that. If you pull that through all the way to your channel and your ecosystem, then you're still keeping in mind as you go down. It's like, okay, well, we have this experience of how we operate, and then how can we be beneficial and bring value to the partners? How can we add, partners into our ecosystem to bring value? And then how can that partner ultimately deliver value back to that exact same end user customer that I wanted to get to in the first place, right? So I think a holistic approach, and I know we've said it a few times, but that's probably the best advice that I could give before you think about who you want to be partners, before you think about, multiple advances in your technology and stuff like that. Do a business optimization. Do a customer centric evaluation of your business and your services. Figure out what's the absolute best situation for your customer, your end user, your target customer, and then build backwards from that. Build with that in mind, and I think you'll be great.
Awesome.
The sky's the limit here. Fireworks.
Yeah, I didn't know how that happened, but
that was brilliant. I know we love
perfect.
Look, fantastic talking to you all guys today. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and appreciate you're super busy people. So lovely talking to you. Hope to talk again soon. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with everybody, and have a great day.
You do the same. Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks everyone.